Hello, everybody. Welcome to, what do we call? I don't know. Anyway, support services for CO. Each of us represents a different area of the college campus that offers a unique service to your students. So we're going to kind of introduce ourselves, tell you a little bit about what we do, and then give you an opportunity to ask us questions.
I'll start. I'm Eric Alvinson. I'm the Vice President for Student Development and the Senior Diversity Officer at the college.
I'm Kim Pearson, and I wear a couple of hats. I am AAP TRIO academic coach. I also am the Accessibility Services ADA coordinator for the college, and I work as Learning Commons consultant in the library.
Good afternoon, welcome. I'm Krista Kronstein, and I'm the Director of Residence Life. And so I work most closely with your students who are living in residence. In each of our residence halls, we also have live-in area coordinators. They're actually still assisting with the late arrivals for move-in, so weren't able to join us, but they're an important part of our residence life team as well.
And my name is Sarah Heisdorfer, and I am the RN in Health Services. I'm here Monday through Friday. We offer student appointments from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We also accept walk-ins as needed, but we will encourage the students to make appointments. We also have a nurse practitioner that is here working with me on Thursdays. Her name is Lindsay Sheeta, and we'd like to schedule a student appointment with her if someone needs a full exam or if they have the need for maybe a prescription or something along those lines. And so I can talk a little bit more as well.
There's definitely lots of seats up front too.
So any questions you have, I'm here and help you to answer. So any healthcare needs or concerns that your student might have over the course of the year, we're here to help with that as well. Sorry. You're good.
Hi, my name is Emily Barnard. I'm the Director of Health and Wellness here at CO and also one of the counselors on campus. And so I work, actually all of us work very closely together. If you haven't experienced that already, CO is a pretty tight-knit community. And we work really closely together and to support whatever we can on your cohorts. So I work a little bit more also on the mental health and counseling side as well. And so we have 2 full-time counselors here on campus. And then we also have a contract with St. Louis Counseling Center, which is right across the street, and are able to offer some services for free. So if that's a concern or something that your cohort may benefit from, go ahead and send them our way.
I'm Carl Velez, I'm Security Director here at CO. The security department does what you would imagine, patrolling and locking doors and unlocking. They also respond to service calls for students overnight, and from there we're able to map it to wherever the department needs to handle whatever situation comes up. One of the things I also deal with is parking. So any permit questions or citation questions, I would be the person to speak to about that. And
So does anybody want to expand a little on what your jobs are more broadly, or?
I'd love to share a little bit more about housing and residence life. So as a residential liberal arts college, the lived on experience is really part of the educational mission of the college. And so students are sometimes sharing spaces for the very first time ever in their life. And some spaces may seem overwhelming when there's a bunch of beds and suitcases and boxes and things like that. I want to encourage you to encourage your son or daughter that it will be okay. It may not seem like it in the very first few hours, on the very first few days, but we have a lot of supports built in to our residence education system here at CO. On each floor, there is a resident assistant, the RA. That RA is going to work most closely with your student to help them understand the policies and regulations we have here at CO, and also connect the students with one another on their floor, to their greater building community, and then hopefully start making those connections to the greater CO community. In addition to the RAs, we also have assistant area coordinators that work with the RAs in each area. Those assistant area coordinators are juniors or seniors who've been on the residence life staff for at least 1 year, who are additional leadership resources for your students. They are super excited to be working with students in residence. Some of them are students who are potentially interested in higher education as a career field, and so we really work hard to connect those students that are serving in that assistant area coordinator role with all of your new cohorts here at CO. I also mentioned that area coordinator position. All of our area coordinators are master's level professionals. They've all studied higher ed or student affairs administration, and they're super excited to be working with your students. Their offices are actually in their area. So Kyle Shura is the area coordinator for Murray Halls, Armstrong, and Douglas Halls, and his office is located in the Armstrong Douglas lobby. He lives in a staff apartment in Murray Hall. Jason Chambers is the area coordinator for Green and Voorhees Halls. His office is in Green, and he and his fiance live in Voorhees Hall. And then Haley Goddard is our newest area coordinator, and she works with students that live in our houses and apartments, which is mostly upperclassmen, so there may be some transfer parents here who have a son or a daughter in those apartments area. Her office is in Morris House, and she resides in Cohawk Village on campus. And so all of those folks that I mentioned, the RAs, the AACs, and the area coordinators are part of our on-call duty rotation. So each night RAs do rounds in their buildings, one in the 7 to 9 o'clock gap, another sometime after 11, and on the weekend, Fridays and Saturdays, they do an additional round after 2 a.m. And so they're walking through the halls, connecting with students that are around, making sure that all of the smoke detectors are working properly, the exit lights are lit properly, nobody has sprayed fire extinguisher fluid in any of the buildings, checking spaces just to make sure that things are okay. And if they encounter something that they can't handle, that assistant area coordinator and professional staff area coordinator are those additional levels of support. In addition to that, we always have campus safety and security on literally 24/7. And so if it's something that needs really quick response, even more than our professional staff can provide, they have the campus safety and security number on speed dial to call Carlos or one of his officers to be able to respond. And so for us, it's part of the campus safety and security to ensure that your son and daughter are doing well and being safe. Their student IDs that they received today provide them access to all of our residential buildings until 11 p.m. After 11 p.m., they only have access to their own building that they're assigned. And so if they're going to be visiting a friend in another building, that friend needs to meet them to let them into the space. They can try as they'd like as many times on that proximity access, but after 11 p.m., unfortunately, they can only get in their own building.
I guess I'll expand a little bit on the security aspect of that. We go around and make sure that students are able to get into the areas that they need to in on campus academic building. If they've happened to lock themselves out of their room, we respond to that as well. One of the things that we do have, though, is that we have a $5 charge for locking them out of for getting them into their room if they forgot their key, simply because it's more of a, and it's not anything to try to get a lot of finances from that. It's more of a reminder to them to keep the key with you. You're supposed to have your key and your ID with you at all times on campus. And I have to remind that sometimes that it wasn't somebody that locked them out of their room. They don't have the key. We respond to emergencies as well. We also respond to any concerns or any issues of anybody sees something that they're a little concerned about or they're a little nervous. We also do 24-hour escorts on campus, which means anywhere they need to go on campus at any time of the day, we are a 24/7 department. They can call us, we will meet them and escort them to wherever they want to go on campus. If they're coming from off campus, we'll meet them at wherever their access point is to campus and walk them to where they want to go from there. It's a service we have for them. Please remind them of that. There's a lot of students that don't even realize that's something that we do. There's blue light phones all over the campus on various buildings, besides having our number plastered everywhere we possibly can for them to call us. Those phones go directly to our cells that we carry with us at all times. Any issues that come up, we also get student development involved. If there's something that's beyond a regular issue that we can deal with right away. We also do emergency management where we work with Cedar Rapids PD and EMTs in the area in case somebody needs medical attention. Anytime something like that happens, we also let the resident staff know as well so that they can become involved with it.
In addition to the counseling services, we also do the wellness component, and so some of you may be saying, I've been trying to do this for 18 years. We really try and get your students to take a proactive approach to their health and wellness, and so we do a lot of pre-programming on the front end as well. And so offer a wide variety of different things that they can take part of depending on what's appeasing or interesting to them or maybe what's needed for them. And so we have some wellness offerings anywhere from kind of what you would maybe deem as more of those physical fitness classes and yoga and Zumba and some different things like that. We also offer some meditation and some relaxation courses and things. In addition to, of course, we have a wonderful facility if you haven't had a chance to look at that. And then we also, throughout the year, will offer some sort of different support groups and talking groups, time management, academic support. We have a whole array of, but we also talk with students on that avenue as well. And then certainly if something's going on at home, we recognize, life is still happening outside of their world at Co. And so if you have concerns or questions, or just want to let us know something's happening, of course, we always encourage you to talk to your student, but we know sometimes it's unavoidable that you would want to talk with a staff member. Feel free to get a hold of one of us as well.
Health services it's a biggie. It's a biggie because you're concerned about your students' health, and if they have signs and symptoms of illness or injury while they're here. That's why I'm here. Again, my name is Sarah Heisdorfer. I'm an RN, so health services is open and available to students Monday through Friday, like I said, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If something happens off hours, nights, weekends, which usually it does, we have lots of information that we push toward the students in emails, and there's posters all over campus too as to where they can go for the local urgent cares that are open a little bit later in the day than I am, or if it's, the overnight or on the weekend. Some urgent cares are open on the weekend, but mostly it's going to be the ER. We are very lucky that we are situated kind of on the corner of what Cedar Rapids calls the Med Quarter. So we have very close proximity to both our local hospitals. Obviously, St. Luke's is right across the street. Mercy's down the street a few blocks. We also have an urgent care located at the PCI building, which is basically right across the street, kitty corner across the street. If there is an issue that as an RN I can't help the student with, that I need to refer the student off campus, I do kind of look at the situation, what could they need, what's the best route for the student, and give them the information and encourage them to go to a different office or provider in the area. We are also very lucky that we have a doctor's office. It's called Eastern Iowa Health Center. It's 2 blocks south of us, again within walking distance. And they are very well attuned to helping college students. They have a sliding scale fee that's based on income. So a lot of students' concern is, well, I'm from out of state, my insurance might not cover. We talk about that. That's always a good resource provider that we can use if they need to go off campus. But backing up a little bit on that, we try to do as much as we can for your student here on campus, because we know once they step foot off Co's campus, it's going to be a charge to their insurance, or they're going to incur some sort of out-of-pocket cost. So Lindsay and I in our health services office, we try to provide as much care as we can. We do not charge students for our care that we give them in our office. So that's really super nice. If a student needs, like I said, an exam from Miss Lindsay, she does not charge as a provider. She does not charge their insurance. The only charges your student would incur if they did come to see us, we do charge for the seasonal flu vaccine. That is my one caveat that I have to say, but it's $20, and if the student wants to receive it through us, I write them a receipt, and then they can send it back to you if they're still on your insurance, and you can get reimbursed from your insurance in that respect. That would be the only thing that I can really think of that the student would have to pay for up front. So if they come to see us and Ms. Lindsay writes a prescription, then obviously the student would have to pay for that prescription. Hy-Vee is within walking distance right up the street. The Walgreens is super close. So we really do have a lot of options for students for health care needs here in our community. I would say that most of what I see and do, it's minor illness and injury. I feel like I do a lot of education, because a lot of times this is the first time that a student has been ill away from home. They've called mom and dad, mom and dad's, miles and miles away. It's just a concern. Sometimes it's just a matter of seeing someone and being reassured. Okay, you just need to rest and push fluids. Okay, have you tried this over-the-counter medication? Let's start simple and then proceed from there. I can test for strep throat, mono, I do STI testing, things like that. I can do all of those items in office as an RN as well. So I try to do as much as I can for the students. And then, like I said, it's wonderful to have Lindsay here that I can also move them on to her if it's something more in-depth that they may need. What should I say about that? I'm very accessible to them. My office is located under the pub, so like when they leave the cafeteria or leave the bookstore, my office door is right across the walkway from them, so it's super easy to find. We do encourage them, like I said, to make appointments, but I can do walk-ins as needed. Emailing, they email me a lot just with random questions, that's great too. You know, again, it's even though I'm technically a little health office, I'm educating them as well. So that's also part of learning to be an adult, is asking those questions and getting those answers and maybe kind of learning to deal with some of their own health issues and healthcare items on their own. So.
And also, if they don't want to, I'm a father of 4, so I have 2 that were teenagers and 2 that are currently younger teenagers. I know going across the street may be a little too much for some of them sometimes. If they don't want to go to the ER, security will take them there. If they call security, we'll take them right across the street and in the car and drop them off at the ER. We'll also pick them up once they call us out.
It seems like that's the more common call. Yeah.
I work in the Stewart Memorial Library in the lower level in what is commonly called the Learning Commons. Well, actually, Learning Commons is the main floor and the second floor, or the lower floor of the library. And that's a combination of all of the academic support programs that the college offers. Our writing center is housed there, our speaking center, Trio AAP program, our audio-visual program. We have a maker space where students can come and use a variety of technology for creativity, including 3D printers.
Raver, which is cool.
There's all kinds of toys down there, academic toys that we're all having a lot of fun with, and the students are encouraged to come and use in a variety of ways. We also have, librarian told me a couple weeks ago, we have some access to VR for things like anatomy, some of the sciences, a lot of different ways that students can go in and actually like sort of walk through the body using virtual reality. So that's kind of exciting that they can have opportunities to use that kind of technology. We have academic coaching services that are available to students for trying to get learn time management skills, organizational skills, adapting to new ways of studying. Oftentimes students will come to college and by virtue of having not come to code, they've already proven their academic ability, and so they come with maybe an accelerated outlook about how their experience will be when they get to college, and they don't realize that they're going to need to expand or extend or alter their study habits to meet the demands of college. And so sometimes that's one of the jobs that we can do, is help them figure out what kinds of changes they need to make in the ways that they have studied in the past to meet the rigors of the courses that they're taking now. So that's something that students can come and talk about. My personal specialty is I work with our students with disabilities. So if your student had a 504, an IEP, have anxiety problems, ADHD, etc., they can come and talk to me. There's a little bit of difference between the way those things work in high school and the way they work in college, is that in high school, the school told the student what they qualified for and where they needed to go and who the people were. In college, the student has to come and tell us. So they need to find me. I'm really easy to access. I'm in the lower level of the library behind our testing center. My office is directly behind that desk. And they need to come and they need to let me know that they have a disability, and they need to request accommodations and request services and supports. And it's a really simple process. They come in, we have a conversation, we talk about their past experience, we determine whether or not there are appropriate accommodations that they need. On occasion, I will ask for documentation, not always. And then we start putting together a plan that meets their needs. And so I really encourage you, if you have a student that has any of those, meets any of those qualifications, has received any kind of services in the past, that they come and talk to me, because the sooner we get them receiving the services that they need, the more likely they are to be successful in school and the less frustrated that they'll be in school. We also have the TRIO AAP program, which is a government-funded grant that the college has to support students that are first generation an income-based requirement or have disabilities. And through that program, we are also able to offer coaching services. We work with students with helping them navigate the school system and understand how the parts go together, how to develop and build their major, how to access services on campus. We kind of work with them at various stages as they move along from their first year through to graduation. As the needs change as they go through the different levels of their schooling. Let's see what else. I think that's about it. There's just pretty much anything that you need for academic support you'll find in the library. And if the student doesn't have to find one of us directly, everyone in the library has knowledge of the skills, the specific skills of each person in the Learning Commons, and so we all work as what's called a Learning Commons consultant, which means we can kind of redirect you. So if a student just finds a person in the library that is a staff member of the library, we can kind of help get them to the right person to work with whatever they're trying to do, whether that's they're trying to do a project, get an internship, develop research for a paper that they're writing, improve their writing skills or speaking skills. We can help them get connected with the right people.
And once again, I'm Eric Alvinson, Vice President of Student Development. So first of all, I'm a good place just to start. If you have a student that you have questions about or is struggling, I'm one of the people who can help get that person connected. The other thing I just want to put out there is that I had a great time meeting your students this morning. You know, as we're moving people in, we're so excited to have you here. I know we're all hot and sticky and gross right now and tired, but we're also happy. You know, so I just want to put it out there. We're very excited to start this year. We have a record-breaking class coming in. CO's just had such great momentum, and as someone who's worked at the college for a while now, I'm getting really excited to see things keep getting better. So we're thrilled to have your students here. So my background, you know, I work in higher education. I've been at the college now for about, starting my 11th year here, and I'm finishing out my PhD in higher education administration. So we basically just study college students, and you know, a lot of this research will boil down to three things, and so I'll kind of give you, and I said this to the students too. First one is get to know your faculty and staff. All right, so please encourage your students to get to know faculty and staff. That's something that we do really well here. I mean, we really do care about our students. You're about to get an opportunity to meet lots of the faculty, you know, when we go out and ring the bell and hang out in the courtyard, so please introduce yourselves. That's one of the best things that you could do to be successful at the college. The second one is really obvious, but it's not as obvious to some of the students, is go to class, all right? You know, like get up and go to class, you know, and I like to tell students, like, you are paying for that class, you know, I mean, like, you know, so it's not, you know, you need to get up and go to class. And, you know, if you bought a ticket to a concert and decided not to go, you know, that's on you. You need to go to those classes, it's worth it. And, but yeah, so going to class, and the third one is getting involved, you know, and so if you get involved, there's lots of different student works and ways to get involved with college, but there's a theme through all three of these things. It's about finding your people, right? It's about community, it's about relationships, and that's what CO does really well. And right now, your students are with their cohort mentors, and they're you know, doing icebreakers and doing things where they're trying to look cool, I'm sure, you know, as they figure that out. But it's all very strategic as we start to get them together. They're going to spend a couple long days and start to form these relationships, you know. And so we're focusing on that. You're going to get to see the convocation, which is, you know, our academic kickoff to the year, which is a lot of fun. But then we walk over to the bell, and students get to ring the bell and become official Cohawks. And it's a very cool moment for me every year when I see people graduate and ring that bell on the way out. You know, and so that's what we want to see. We want to see our students, you know, crossing the line and ringing that bell as they leave the college. So a lot of good traditions, a lot of good things going on at the college. It's about finding your people. So I will say though, if your student is struggling, that's normal too. You know, we just I was actually, you know, just talking to a student who was, you know, came to our multicultural orientation and went to all the events, but you know, was crying in her room last night, and that's normal. That's a transition to come through. And so if you see that or you hear that, you know, or calling home mom, dad, again, reach out to one of us, and we'll do that. We have systems on campus, early notification systems as we call them. If a faculty or staff member notices, hey, you know, this student's behavior has changed a little bit, something seems off, we have a way that we communicate directly with each other, and we try to follow up with things right away, before it's a crisis. And we're able to, since we have a smaller student population overall, we're able to give a lot more individualized attention. So it's not unheard of if you call me about a student, like, I'm not going to shoot off an email about that student. I'm going to call and talk to that student. All right. And so just know that we are here to help support them, and we want nothing more than to see them graduate. Yeah.
When you see an incident like you just talked about, with maybe a behavior change in the student, do you also reach out to the parents and let them know?
Yeah. So we have actually it's a great point. So one piece is FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, right? And so if the student has checked off on FERPA that it's okay for us to communicate with parents, we absolutely do that. Now, if you didn't check off on that box, if we feel like your student's in danger or at risk or really struggling, yes, absolutely, we reach out to your to parents. At the same time, we're trying to help students establish themselves as adults and kind of figure things out and walk on their own 2 feet. And it's case by case. Some students are, nope, I don't want to talk to mom and dad, or I've got this, I've got to figure it out. But we can make a professional call saying, okay, no, this person's in danger, or is at risk of leaving college. Then we do that to get the parents involved. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll follow up a little bit on that as well. So myself, Sarah, and Lindsay, who we've talked about, and then also Malia, who I had kind of mentioned but never shared her name. Malia White is our other full-time counselor and college chaplain. And so because of our professional degrees and licensure for the state, we are not able to. We're bound by confidentiality unless we have your student sign that form or sign that paper. Again, in the case of safety, we're going to err on the side of reaching out to you guys. We're always encouraging your students to talk to you. Sometimes for whatever reason, they may not want to, they may feel embarrassed, they may have other things that they just don't want to bring to you, but we're always saying, hey, have you thought about approaching mom, dad, or loved one or whomever about this? So it's not that we don't want to talk to you, sometimes by law we can't. So just know that might be a possibility as well.
And I'll just really quickly tag on that. That's called the HIPAA law, so everyone signs a HIPAA statement when they go to the doctor's office. Same thing applies to us. It's the HIPAA law. Your student does have the ability, though, in my office to sign a form saying that, yes, it's okay to share my medical or health information with this parent, and then the name is listed. So I do have forms in the office, so if you chat with your student and you want your student to fill out that form, that I can share their medical information with you, then that's available as well.
And just for clarification, that's different than FERPA. So the thing on my code that they sign off for FERPA, that you can talk about your grades or your bill or your this, that's one level of ability for us to converse with you, and the HIPAA permissions are different.
Question.
So with the signing the permission slip, the HIPAA, is that every single visit, or is that one time and you can
It's for, there's an end date on it. So you can sign it, they can sign it with an end date of, for 2022, whatever date they graduate. It usually should be done by a year by all technical services. But yeah, there's an end date on it. They usually do last a year.
For HIPAA, does one HIPAA apply to all services, or a separate HIPAA for every service?
HIPAA is because I hold an RN license, and Lindsay as well, we hold medical, we're under medical law. So everything in health services is under HIPAA.
But just one signing is what you get.
Yes, oh, sorry, yes.
It covers it all.
And once again, too, with both HIPAA and FERPA, if there's fear that there's students in danger or anything along those lines, then that's a clause.
That
we
if it's a
notify.
huge safety issue,
Yeah, any safety.
then as professional judgment, we can jump over HIPAA, and make that call.
And just to reiterate, we want to talk with you, okay? It's not that we don't want to, and so you're certainly welcome to call us at any time, especially if something's going on at home, or just to give us a heads up. Maybe your son or daughter comes home over break, or you kind of notice in their voice on the phone that maybe something is just off, and you can always email us or call, like Eric said, and just reach out to one of us. A lot of times parents will call me or call us and say, hey, I'm worried about them. Please don't let them know I called. Sometimes they're okay saying, yeah, let them know that I called and I'm worried. And so it's not that we're saying we can't have any communication, but we do have some guidelines that we need to follow as well. So we might not be able to provide every detail, but we do want to hear from you too.
I have a question for Sarah. Well, I have two questions, actually. First one, does Health Services have a procedure in place for when a co-student athlete gets injured in an away game?
Student athletes are encouraged first and foremost to go through the athletic trainers. And your student will get that information from their coach in the athletic training system because the athletic trainers would be able to treat them and get them into physical therapy much quicker than I could. And that's their forte. They are very, very good with sports injuries.
And the trainers travel with the teams.
That was
That's what I was
my,
gonna say.
Yeah, the trainers travel with the teams.
okay, my next question, who can help me ask the pertinent questions to my out-of-state insurance to be able to get the best possible service from my insurance?
That's a very good question. Normally what I'll tell parents, call your insurance company, let them know my student is going to be, a college student at a college in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. What is the coverage? Some insurance companies have a little bit of leeway that they can offer, some don't. So some insurance companies that are from out of state will only cover emergencies like the ER. Some will cover urgent cares. I do have some students that will go ahead and apply through the United States Health Marketplace. And then, that's pretty pricey, to be honest. Some students will also apply for Iowa Medicaid through the Iowa DHS online portal. That's really quick and easy to do. So my first step would be I'd call your insurance company and say, hey, this is what I've got going on. What's my coverage? I often see the biggest problem is prescriptions. We can offer all the health care we can in our office, but I can't help them pay for their prescriptions. So that would be a biggie for me if I was sending my student out of state, is look at prescriptions, what's covered at Hy-Vee or Walgreens. We do give students Hy-Vee discount cards. Hy-Vee can hand them to them right at the desk too. So they know that they're trying to save money, trying not to spend a lot of money on these prescriptions. So that's also a discount as well. So I have all that information in my office too if your student needs to stop by.
Thank you.
And while we're talking about health and mental health, I want to share another resource is that, it's tremendously helpful to be right next door to a hospital. When I took this job, I didn't realize that's really nice, because we're able to walk our students over if there's any sort of emergency. With the sports question, we have Dustin Arnold, who's a co-alum, but also is one of the doctors over in St. Luke's, who kind of serves as a team doctor and is able to help, kind of navigate that system as well, which is very helpful. We also have access to St. Luke's counseling. We have, again, counselors on campus. We have a lot of different staff members, but there may be a student who doesn't want to, talk to someone within this community, right, and wants to kind of go outside of that. So St. Luke's counseling is available for students. Students have, the way it's set up is they have 5 sessions where they go to the St. Luke's counseling, but I don't want you to think that that's 5 sessions and then they're done. At 5 sessions, what we do ask is we try to get students to go onto their own insurance, and we talk with St. Luke's and we kind of go take a case management approach of, okay, what's the next best step? So if your students hear that, because that gets misinterpreted a lot when they say, I only have 5 sessions, I don't want to use one of my sessions right now, this is not serious enough. No, we want you to use your sessions and make sure that you're getting help and finding that person again, because counseling is very much about developing an individual relationship. And so you may make a connection with Emily or Malia, or you may make a connection with someone at St. Luke's.
Thanks.
Hi, this is a question for Sarah. So let's say my student comes to you and is presenting symptoms of mono or strep. What would kind of happen, in that scenario?
I would go ahead and do, the initial exam. I can do a quick test for strep throat, for mono. A lot of if it's positive, mono's a viral illness, so nothing more I can do there except for supportive care. Strep throat, yes, I would let Lindsay know and see if we can either make that appointment for them to see Lindsay on Thursday, or if it's a Friday or Monday and the student can't wait, then I would send them across the street to talk to the urgent care over there for the antibiotics. I offer a lot of over-the-counter products and objects to help that student with symptom relief. And again, a lot of education. I give them handouts as to, hand washing, what to do with what about your roommate? Are you concerned that your roommate might get ill as well? If students are so ill that they can't even leave their room, We have a process that they can get a meal with some sort of a special bowl, some box or something.
Box,
Yeah, a box that Sodexo will make up. And then the RA or someone can bring that food to that student so they don't have to come to the cafeteria, things like that. Did I answer your question okay?
Yeah.
In the signature for, in the health form, the HIPAA permission, does that apply then to emergency services, or do you need like a separate power of attorney to get information like they do on that,
So my HIPAA form is just for things that we do at health services. If the student does leave campus, then that would be on St. Luke's ER or wherever they are. Once they leave campus, then I'm kind of, my HIPAA permission is done. So
Our on-call staff that I mentioned in my introduction, actually, when it's after hours or overnight, are actually accompanying most students if we're made aware that they're heading to the ER, and so can serve as a facilitator for that communication as well. We found it somewhat depends on who is working what nights, how much information is actually shared both with us as staff members from CO and with the parents. And so we really serve as ones that are encouraging the students to be in touch with their parents as much as possible to let them know what's happening. And oftentimes, some of our area coordinators have mentioned being in the room with the student and the provider, parent on the phone, handing phone to provider, so everybody is in the loop. And so our staff members, if we know that a student is going to the ER, often accompany. At a certain point, when a student decides, I don't need you here anymore too, we leave, especially if they feel supported from maybe, mom or dad or family from afar, or they have a roommate or a friend accompany them to the ER. We're just another face that's in the way, and so we will gladly leave. But there's oftentimes students who, in the middle of the night, that's not the case, and so we're serving as that support person for them.
Security? How many security personnel do you have servicing on a given night? And what's the process of what they do to make sure that the campus stays secure?
Okay. Well, we have 3 different shifts every day. That's 8 to 4, 4 to 12, and 12 to 8. Usually in the earlier shifts, there's 1 to 2 guards on duty because it's quieter, there's more people on staff. During a regular weekday, there's staff and faculty in all the buildings as well. Overnights, we have 2 to 3 guards on duty, and they will go and do patrolling. We walk through academic buildings as well to make sure everything's fine. We lock up doors at certain times. There are 2 buildings on campus that have 24-hour access. One is Stewart Hall, which is right outside, and there's a computer lab on that floor. And then Gage Union has 24-hour access as well, so students can come up there, use the computer, sit on the couch, do whatever they want. And we're constantly going around on either foot patrol, bike patrol, or car patrol, and just making sure that all the areas are secure. All of our dorm buildings are locked up, as you heard, and you need an access card to get in. We're constantly walking around checking doors, things along those lines. Every call we get for a suspicious person or suspicious behavior, we go and check those as well. And basically just everything we can do to try to make them feel safe.
We also have security cameras trained on all the entrances of our residence halls and in the parking lots as well. And we have a very close working relationship with CRPD. Lieutenant McGarvey, it's broken down in districts, and Lieutenant McGarvey is our district lieutenant. And I talk with him at least once a month or so, and have his cell phone number if I'm like, hey, I'd like to have an extra squad car, just looping around a little bit more. And the CRPD is always very open to working with us. So.
And the Cedar Rapids Police have a substation right across the street, which is what they use for paperwork and things when they're in this area and they don't want to go all the way back to their police station. It's literally right across the street. So officers are there at various times as well.
I have a question. For resident parking, then pink, the resident painting, where do they park and where do you get the sticker or whatever you need to have in your vehicle?
It is now a hanging device that hangs from the mirror. They register online. There's multiple emails that have been sent out, but if they don't have those emails, I can send it out to them, or there's a link on their micropage. When we issue the permit, we will also issue a parking map that shows where resident parking is specifically. Most of the parking lots have signs and indicators of who can park there at what times. And we also go through and for the first couple of weeks give little warnings instead of actual citations. This is your parking area you shouldn't, or anything overlooked. Please look at the parking procedures.
Where do they get the actual?
The actual permit, once they go online and register it and pay for it, it's actually in the security office.
Okay, and for parents that are visiting, where is parking?
Visitor parking is labeled behind the new apartments where many of you may be parked today after move-in is a visitor lot. There's also a that's not even a word, visitor lot close to the football field in between the Clark Racket Center and the football field behind Cohawk Village. Oftentimes, I will say the parallel street spots that are available kind of all around the periphery of campus is oftentimes where parent guests and community guests tend to park as well.
Do keep in mind that those alternating street parking areas all around campus are patrolled and enforced by Cedar Rapids Police, not by us.
And if you happen to forget all of that, there is a map online as well. Because you're going to deal with a little bit today, so.
Just a little bit.
What's public transportation like for students?
So students are eligible to purchase a bus pass through Cedar Rapids. There are 2 bus stops very close to campus. One is literally on campus, and the other is on B Avenue and 15th. I will say most students don't utilize public transportation. On Thursdays, we have a shuttle that takes students to Walmart and Target. That's very popular. People like being able to shop, but that's not through the city bus system. It's our own shuttle. And information will be available about that in the next week or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so many of our students have cars that people tend to just travel with friends, and you'll see that when people are like, hey, I need a ride to Chicago, and people all come together for that again.
And there's sometimes large events sponsored by various student groups that happen off campus, and they'll often organize transportation as part of that event as well. And so information about that is typically included with the advertising for said event.
It's about time to transition to our to convocation, so I wanted to open up for any final questions, or if not, I have anything else. Yeah.
So for students who don't drive, how do people come and go? I know there's an airport. Is there a way to get there? Is there a Greyhound or Trailway?
Our students love Uber. Uber came into Cedar Rapids about 1.5 years ago. Many utilize Uber, and oftentimes it's just word of mouth. We are small enough, we are lucky to be small enough where that still happens. On big weekends like Thanksgiving, fall break, Christmas, there are times where the demand for transportation to either the airport or to Coralville, where there is a transportation bus hub that has Trailways and Megabus, happens, and that information comes out through co-mail. And so one of the things that I want to encourage your students to do, if they're not doing, is checking their emails regularly. It really is the official mode of communication from the college to the student. And so much of the information that they need to know what's going on is sent through email. And so that could be something that if they're like, I just don't know, say, hey, did you check your email today? Because there could be 2, 4, or 5 emails explaining that to them as well.